Welcome, everybody, to Lightweavings podcast. And this is where we ask the question, what has dimmed your light? And are you ready to do something about it? We have conversations that may be uncomfortable, but that's where the magic happens, is you just go through the uncomfortableness, if that's a word. And that's where the insights come in and the healing begins. So are you ready to get started, Wendy?
Yes, I am, Dawn. Thank you. I'm super excited
Okay.
to be here, and I know we're going to have another wonderful, fun conversation.
Yeah. This is the month for connection for me, the month of February, and I'm really excited about that. And, I started off the month really well. And then all of a sudden, the gremlins came. All of a sudden, the negative thoughts came in and situations and maybe people. And I could hear myself talking negatively. I could see myself and hear my thoughts that were negative. And when I started setting goals, all the gremlins or the limiting beliefs just flooded in. They were just so vivid and so real and like scratching at me. Um, and I realized that I realized it. I realized that I saw them. I recognized it when every single negative word came out recently. And I feel like that's a gift to be able to see that. I feel like we do the work until we get to that point where we see ourselves, because that's just the reality of life. Sometimes that happens, especially when it's time to start letting go.
Yes, it is. And congratulations to you for having the wherewithal to recognize what was going on, because so many of us, we don't know, we don't know what we don't know. And all that negative self-talk is just a way of normalcy. They say that we have 80, 90,000 thoughts a day, and the bulk of them are negative. And for you to be able to say, hey, this isn't working for me anymore, that is really empowering.
Yes, I mean, that's a very positive way of looking at that. That's great. Um, our good friend Tracy L, she calls that the shit talker in your head. I love
Love it.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the shit talker. And that is the truth. I mean, and then when they come out of my mouth, that takes it to a different level. And it's like, oh no, you want to reel it back in. But at the same time, it's a sign that I feel like this is a mental and probably emotional detox that's
Mm,
happening. Just like when we are starting to feed our bodies healthy foods and healthy things and running and doing all those things that we do for our body naturally then releases that which is not serving it well. That's the detox, as I'm sure most of you are familiar with. And things happen, like our skin smells bad, our breath is bad. And of course, things happen when we're releasing the food from our digestive system that's not doesn't seem normal, but it's a detox. We are releasing what isn't serving us in our body. And it's not pleasant. It's not
right.
pleasant to go through a detox. That's not the fun part, but it sure feels good later when it's gone, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. So much lighter and cleaner.
Yes. And I feel
Oh,
like, you know, our physical health is one part of our health. Another part of our health is our mental health. Mental health is important as well. And I feel like there's a detox process that happens with mental health as well.
yes, I absolutely agree. And that can look like different things for different people. I don't know if I shared this with you before, but years ago, when I was on my path, which I'll be on my path forever as far as healing myself, I found myself in a state of constant negativity, and I could not get out of it. And I even said to my husband at the time, "It's like I acknowledge this is going on within me, and I don't know what to do." And I just knew that it wasn't working for me anymore. And I actually signed up for a program that helped to rewire my brain. out of that, because the negativity, it builds these pathways within us, and it just becomes a habit and a way of being. And then so you get to reprogram your brain. But I love what you said about the detoxing, because as you do heal yourself and you do become more aware of your behavior, it is an absolute detox, because there's a part of you that is saying, I'm not accepting this way of being anymore. And so, yeah, we're flushing that out. And that is super powerful. Congratulations to you. Seriously.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. And I think that's a very powerful thing that you just did, was congratulating me. And also we should do that for ourselves. We should say to that part of ourselves that has created those mechanisms for survival.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it protected us from something before we knew a better way to do that.
Right.
And so I feel like that's a very healthy thing to do for ourselves as well. As you know, I'm very into really getting to know that self, getting to know ourself, myself as a person, as a being. And so I talk to that self as I would a good friend. And I certainly wouldn't, just like you did, I wouldn't condemn that person that I love. I would instead, you know, tell them that it's going to be okay, and that, you did well with that, mental detox. So, so to thank that part of us that helped us survive, and now just say, okay, that part of me, you're coming along with me. We're just upgrading our little process here, and we're going to find a better way to release that. And limiting beliefs and negative thoughts and our old way of reacting maybe to people and situations is part of us. It's part of our history. It's part of who we are. So it's okay, I guess. And so, there's ways to release instead of blah, 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 like I did, that are probably healthier. And one of those ways is journaling for me, is just writing them down and then going back and reading it, not just writing it down and put it out there further, but then go back and read it and sort of analyze it, and then turning it around. So an exercise that one of my coaches does is write them all down, all the little gremlins that are in your head about why you can't do or be the certain person that you want to do or be. And then on the other side of the paper, write the opposite. Like, I'm not enough. Well, I am more than enough
Mm-hmm.
to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or nobody's going to listen to this podcast. Oh, the whole world's going to hear this podcast. Things like that. That's a great way to release.
Yeah, I love that. Journaling is always so therapeutic, like you say, and it's great. You get to do that mind dump. And one of the things that I like to do whenever I have all those gremlins and everything, and I want them to be still, be quiet, and is to go in and actually ask first of all, it's like, okay, what am I really saying? And ask, when did I decide this? Or what part of me, like my inner child, what part of me is speaking that needs this attention right now, that needs some healing? Because as we know, so much of what's in our mind, we've carried forward throughout our life. We've carried it forward, like you said, as a part of survival. We take it on from our environment, and there might be like a little part of us, our younger self, that is actually just calling out like, hey, I just want to feel safe right now. And that's usually when those gremlins do pop up, is when you're not feeling safe. Or, also we have the gremlins that beat ourselves up, not feeling good enough. And so that's something else too. And I like that. Something that we both do is the EFT tapping. That is really, really powerful. Tapping on our meridians. I love doing that, and it's something easy that anybody can do. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious. Oh,
Go ahead.
oh,
Yeah, the tapping has been this last year has been a new concept for me. I'd heard of it before, but I
Mm-hmm.
just started doing it and utilizing it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to a tapping session tonight, Tuesday
Oh,
night
good.
tapping.
Excellent.
And it's something that seems odd at first, seems odd, but as after you do it for a while, you see the benefits, and that's all
Mm-hmm.
that matters.
Mm-hmm.
I see
Yep.
the benefits.
Yep.
Doesn't matter how it works to me. It just matters that it works.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was actually one of the first healing modalities that I learned years ago. Super powerful. But I was going to ask you just your perception. Do you feel, I don't know if it's just me, or do you feel this too, that a lot of people are starting to transition and, subconsciously, whether it's subconscious, consciously upgrade their life? And as doing so, more and more stuff is coming up for the detoxing.
Yes, I definitely do. This year, especially, and I'm looking at this year in month chunks, and it feels like
Mm.
that's how it's going to go.
Oh, I love
So
that.
it's the moon cycle too. It's the moon
Mm-hmm.
cycle.
Mm-hmm.
January, they say January is for dreamers and February is for doers. Well, now it's
Mm.
time to do. It's
Right?
time to move on those resolutions and keep moving on them. Um, and when we're used to this cycle of, okay, we are not thriving, so let's do until we're okay. And then once we're okay and we're busy because we were doing, then we let it slip down to the, oh, now I got to start doing again because I've let it slip, right? And so there's this cycle, and that comes from a book that I've just read, the Slight Edge. He's an amazing author. Um, I'll think of his name in a little bit, but and those of us that have been in sales, they call it the ups and downs of sales as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Once we get to that top where we're okay. So in January, I had these goals for January, for the month of January, and I reached the goals for January. And so then I was there, but I was so tired from the work that I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, good, I'm there. And then we think we can just sort of not do the mundane things anymore that we were doing that got us there. And then slowly we end up back down again. So the downward spiral, the downward movement is, I think, where a lot of us start then reacting and the negative thoughts start coming in. And I feel like we're just right now, that very end of the very first week of February, where that's starting to happen for us. And it pisses us off. We don't like it. So at least that's what's happening for me. And
uh,
so the key then is just to do the small mundane things that we were doing before. For me, it's, journaling daily. It's keeping track of my goals. It is tracking everything, tracking my spending, tracking my income, checking things off my list, like to write in my book every day, to journal, to practice gratitude, which I think is magic. I know is
mm-hmm.
magic.
Oh, for
And why
sure.
would I not do the magic? The
Right.
magic.
Right.
Seriously,
Right.
practicing gratitude, first of all, keeps that shit talker quiet.
Right.
And then we start speaking about those wonderful things. So, yes, to answer your question, I'm seeing it with a lot of the people in our world right
Mm-hmm.
now, in our circle, if you will, where there is a bit of a letdown because there was the work up front, the hard work up front, and then it seems then you get sort of exhausted and kind of start to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, I've experienced that many times. My January was a different experience. I had so many plans, big plans, and not one of them came to fruition. Not because I was lazy, didn't put in the work, it's because something happened with my father that I needed to put my life on hold and go take nurse my father back to health. And at first, I was angry because I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I had this set agenda, I had everything all planned out and, dreaming big, and none of that came to fruition. And what I have ultimately taken away from that experience is to, yes, have your big intentions, your goals, whatever you want to call it. And for myself on my journey is to let go. There's a couple things. One is to let go for divine timing. And also, this was really big. I was not planning to share this, but I feel like maybe it'll help somebody. I got to make a choice, an internal choice, because I have this history of giving myself up to take care of somebody else, always putting other people first. And of course, your instinct whenever your loved one is hurting, you want to just go and take care of them. I think that's natural and it's humane. But it's been such a pattern and such a degree that has been costing me. It's been costing me my peace, costing me my happiness, been costing me living my divine purpose. And so I just had a conversation with the universe. It's like, first of all, I said, I cannot financially afford to continue giving myself up, for big chunks of time. And I choose to be there as a support to the best that I can without giving myself up anymore. And I choose to live my life purpose. And since then, doors and windows, it's like the universe heard that and is starting to shift and to bring some ease and possibilities for me to move forward with that. And so my detoxing, I guess, so far this year was letting go, choosing myself, which I've never really done before to that degree. And yeah, that was huge. It brings with it a lot of emotions. And that's another thing that I feel that people are probably going to experience more and more is the detoxing of emotions. Yesterday when I was at the grocery store, I had this experience. I was just angry. And anger seems to be my life theme. I've been a very angry person, and my goal is to become just total internal peace, right? And I was angry at the grocery store because every aisle I went down, there's at least 2-3 people in my way. I couldn't get my shopping cart down there, so I'd have to park and go down then. But I recognized what I was feeling, and it's like, this is not me. And so, like with your mental chatter, you were able to recognize it and let it go. And for me, it was the anger. And it's like, I feel that my body is detoxing. I'm just letting go of old pent up anger that I no longer need. And it's huge.
It's huge to let go of anger, which is such a powerful emotion.
Oh, it's horrible. Eats you alive.
It does. It does. And so does guilt.
Oh, yes.
Guilt is horrible. And it does no good.
Yeah.
It's the past, right?
Right.
We are to live in the present.
Right.
And there should be no guilt there. There shouldn't be, as long as we're in alignment and living our life purpose like you have made the decision to do. Congratulations for that. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Because
the universe provides. You're in the flow.
Yes, exactly. Because before I was in anger, balancing, the two, and so absolutely, yeah, it's big.
It is big. So when you recognized anger, what was your technique in the grocery store to move past that and to let that go?
That's a really good question. And I'll share that with you. And I feel that perhaps maybe it's a little bit easier for me just because I have done so much anger release, but maybe not. I mean, the first thing was being aware of how I was feeling, acknowledging this is like my not self. This is my shadow side. This is old shit. This is not the person that I am. And so recognizing that, it's like, okay, I can continue to be angry right now if I want to. Anger is a choice. You know, science shows that the surge, the chemical satisfaction, the benefit of the chemicals that you get in your body from anger lasts about 90 seconds. And so after that, being angry is a choice. And so I asked
Mm.
myself, is this how I really want to get through the rest of the grocery store? Because I was, you know, like halfway through. I could make this continue to be miserable, or I could shift my attitude and say, no, I'm just going to breathe. It's okay that I need to park my cart down here. It's okay that I need to walk over here. It's okay. It's not a big deal, you know?
Mm.
And I have to just kind of laugh. Normally, when I go to the checkout line, I pick the slowest line. Doesn't matter. You know, it could look like the fastest line, and I get in there and there's problems with the person ahead of me. It's the slowest line. And so I don't know if this was like just, you know, shifting my energy or what, but when it's time to check out, I just walked right up, put my stuff on the conveyor belt and got out of there. And it's like, wow, I'm so glad that I shifted my energy and chose not to be angry, because then I just had a pleasant experience for the rest of the time.
There you go. And you recognized it. Maybe if you were still in that angry mode, you wouldn't have even recognized
Oh,
the
no.
pleasurable experience you were having. You're so wrapped
Right.
up in the anger. And I think that
Right.
happens for us
It
is we let
does.
the anger just be everything, take over,
Hmm.
and we don't even see the blessings.
Right.
We don't even see the good things.
Right.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting that and I've mentioned this before, that our society is so much more comfortable with anger than with anything
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
Because it's something that we know what it is, right? It's so big and loud and yeah, dark. Um no, I think that's really good. So it sounded like you had a conversation, like your inner self, your
Yes.
inner voice that knows better had a conversation with a different you.
Right.
And there's conversations like that that happen in our heads all the time.
Yes. Yes.
That it's so interesting. Michael Singer's book, The Untethered Soul,
Hmm.
he talks about that. Is in the beginning of the book, it's like, who is that talking constantly in my head? All of a sudden you realize there's a voice always like saying stuff in your head, and you're like, shut up.
Right. You're
But
driving
it's
me
okay to
crazy.
take, yeah. What is good though is to take that voice and have it say pleasant,
Hmm.
nurturing things instead
Hmm.
to calm those feelings. And that sounds like that was a way for you to release it, was
Yes.
to have that calming conversation with that self.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, one of the things that I've been doing that has been really beneficial is I've been asking myself, is this for the benefit of my ego or my higher self?
Mm, good question.
Hmm. It's very empowering.
Yes. Wow. To just have that question handy to grab in almost
Hmm.
every decision that we make, and what we say and how we react.
Right.
Which side of me is benefiting?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like the story of the two wolves, you know. Which one do you feed?
Ah, yes. That's a good one too.
Mhm.
Mm, great. So I'm just going to have to make a mental note of that. Have it ready for some more mental detoxing.
There's always more to come, isn't there?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, we're here to learn, apparently.
we are.
So off we
The
go to
poor.
the races. Yeah, there's
Uh,
other techniques too for release, and we've mentioned this before, the journal and burning, which
mhm.
is a like a full moon ritual that we can do once every 28 days to yeah, thank you, Wendy.
Yeah, there's your
Um,
journal.
that's a that's a tool that you can use. Yeah, it's available. You can do this on anything. You can just write out anything and take it to a safe place to burn a piece of paper. Write it out that way. Nobody will see it either, but you can write whatever you want and get
Mhm.
everything out that you want to release, and then make sure it all gets burned. Watch it.
Right.
Be careful with that too. Use a fire pit if you would. Um, but that is a very powerful way to do that. And I was taught to not only write out what was no longer serving me, but then on the
Mhm.
flip side, um, put some positive energy with it by writing gratitude statements about what you are
Mm.
thankful for. So when you burn it, the good
Yes.
energy takes the negative energy and transforms it and transmutes it into the universe. And so when somebody else receives it, it's with gratitude.
Love that.
Yeah. It's just a physical way of just really kind of solidifying a decision that we make. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Such good
And then
stuff.
there's like, is it NLP?
Yes,
NLP.
neuro linguistic programming.
Can you talk a little bit on that? Because I know you've been trained in that area.
I
Haven't
have.
you?
I have.
Yeah.
Yes. So for neuro linguistic programming, NLP, with the chatter, one tool that is really powerful is to reframe a situation. So we look at something in a negative perspective. You can ask yourself, how can I reframe this from a more positive aspect? Let's just say a very fast example. Yesterday, me at the grocery store, my mental attitude at first was, I'm really angry that these people are in my way. A reframe would be, oh, how wonderful. I get to park my cart, walk, which is helping me to get in my steps for the day. And, there's more room in the aisles. That's a very simple reframe.
Love that. I love the steps for the day. I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a great way of thinking about it. It's obviously positive. Shows up
Right.
on your phone. Look how many more steps I got today.
Right.
Everybody
Exactly.
loves more steps. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. My goal for
Yeah.
February for the Cancer Society, the American Cancer Society, is to get in 28 miles in the month of February.
Nice.
So I'm going to remember that to get some more. It's going to give me more steps on my phone calculator thingy that counts my steps. How does it do
Right.
that?
Right. I
Anyway.
don't know. I don't know. And sometimes it's not totally accurate because I'll look at my phone and it's like, I know I took more steps than that.
Yeah.
But we take
So you're
what
going
we
to
can
argue
get.
with your app. Yeah.
Right.
We can. We get to. We get to
Yeah,
argue
we
with it if we
can.
want to.
That's right. If we
Yeah.
want to, then just let it go. Oh, too
That's a
funny.
really great way of thinking about that. And yeah, having to park a long ways away in the parking lot because for whatever reason, you could think of it, oh, and I've told myself this before, I can park far away. I hike up mountains for no reason at all. I can walk across the parking lot. No big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. We can find positives, find the positives wherever we can,
So
so.
NLP is neuro linguistic programming.
Correct. Yes.
And so the linguistic, so it's the nervous system, linguistic meaning the talk.
It's the talk in the mind, I guess, is one very simple way of putting it. So it's reprogramming the way that you think, the reprogramming the way that you look at the world. Research shows that about 80% of people look at a situation with what's called away motivation and 20% which is toward motivation. And what an example of that is people will move away from the pain as a way to moving towards the pleasure. Let's say if you're an athlete that plays basketball, the difference would be playing to not lose as opposed to playing to win. And when you're in that away motivation, it's shocking about as to how much more energetically draining it is. So it's kind of like if somebody has the goal of losing, say, 20 pounds, I got to lose 20 pounds because if I don't, XYZ is going to happen. I mean, that is really heavy. That's a lot of pressure on yourself. As opposed to, you know what, I'm going to let go of this 20 pounds. First of all, you don't want to lose weight because your subconscious mind will help you find it back. So when you want to, yeah.
That is great. Oh my gosh. That's awesome the way you said that.
Yeah. You want to let it go. Move on from it. So when you want to let go of your weight, because you're going to feel lighter on your feet, you're going to have more energy, you're going to look more vibrant, you're going to feel more alive. So can you see and feel the difference between those two motivations?
Huge.
Hmm.
Letting go as opposed to losing.
Yeah,
Huge. That's a
right.
choice then.
Oh, it's
Not
everything is a
it was
choice.
done to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Wow.
those are just a couple examples of um yeah, it's reprogramming your mind. One
And
thing.
so
Oh, no, go ahead.
when you say programming, neural pathways are created then, aren't they? Like it's almost like we
Hmm.
dig little trenches, little
Yeah.
easy to get back in that new trench. Then our little wheels will fall into that trench
Yeah.
easily
Yeah.
once we've created it. It's like blazing a trail.
Exactly. When I was first early in my healing process, I listened to it was an audio on redoing pathways, and the analogy that was used in this audio was like if we're in a vehicle and we're driving across mud, and then you know how the tires get very deep down in and they make these really huge like troughs, and then the sun comes out and dries them, and then that's still there. That's going to be like the easiest path to go through once the sun dries everything, right? And so what we get to do is like get a bulldozer and smooth that out and create new pathways that are positive. There's so much science behind reprogramming your brain. It's fascinating. Some of my favorite scientists talk about this all the time. Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, and Dr. Bruce Lipton. Those are my three favorite scientists that I follow, and they're always talking about this kind of stuff. It really is exactly what you say. It's laying new neural pathways. And some things
Mhm.
take a little bit longer to reprogram than others. It depends on how entrenched it is, your willingness to let it go. And
Mhm.
the holistic healer part of me also says, what part of your inner child needs some healing in order to let that go, especially when you're
Mhm.
talking about the negative thoughts of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, and I'm not smart enough. That gets very entrenched in our brain. And then when you go in and heal that on the heart and the soul, that can actually very quickly do some reprogramming right there. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Wow. Totally makes sense. So I'm envisioning this really deep, this heavy truck, and it was really wet in the mud, and the sun came out, and it is so easy when you're driving down that dirt road to accidentally slip into that rut.
Mm-hmm.
Your
Right.
vehicle wants to. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy to, so you have to really pay attention and not slip into that rut. But it would be so much easier to go and get some new material
Mm-hmm.
that's heavy and solid to fill in the ruts,
Mm-hmm.
um, and maybe even pave the road so it never happens again.
Right. Exactly.
Um, and so that would come from, you know, working with a coach, a therapist, or, just, doing the work, whatever that
Yeah.
looks like to you,
Yeah.
doing the work to pave that road instead of falling back into those trenches again. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And, like I shared, doing uh, making the decision, recognizing, sorry, I'm stumbling with my words here, that I had a problem with my negative thinking, and shifting that. There's also, I've learned some other skills because I actually worked with a mindset coach for a while too. And that's really helpful for people who understand how to help you to reprogram your mind. And what's really interesting that a lot of people may not even think about is with a thought, there is also an emotion that goes along with that. And something that I add to that is there's also can be a survival instinct. And so when these are all together, it just kind of locks it into place. And so when you go in and identify your thought and your feeling that goes with it and your survival instinct, you can unpack that and come up with something that is more pleasant.
Awesome. Fascinating stuff.
We
So many
humans,
ways to release.
yeah, humans are very
Yes.
fascinating.
We we are amazing creatures, and Yeah, we can be difficult. So
No.
tread lightly. Yeah. No, that's so great. So there's so many tools and techniques out there for healthy releasing,
Hmm.
um, and detoxing, as if you
Hmm.
will, that mental detoxing we were talking about. And this might be a good month for me,
Hmm.
obviously, to try some of these techniques. Maybe do some of the NLP. That sounds fascinating to me. Writing out, reframing, using some of those techniques to look at some of the challenging situations that I'm dealing with differently. And I
Hmm.
feel like I've done some of that work in the past, and it does help. It does help a lot, and it does stick. It does stick instead of, just, feeling self-pity for things that have been hard to go through, to find the gratitude in the hard situation.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that might take a little bit of thinking, but after a while, it gets easier
It
to be able to
does.
do that,
It
to look
does.
for that little piece of light, that little ray of light, that
Hmm.
little beam of joy,
Hmm.
um, that is happening at the same time, because it's actually always there if we're willing to recognize it, to look for it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, and what I'm seeing and my takeaway observation of you, with your desire to connect is what you're doing is connecting to your authentic self,
Mm, yes. The
because
most
then
important connection that we have.
that's right. Yeah, because underneath all that chatter, you are finding your authentic self. My theme for the month has been self-love, and
Mm,
self-love goes with that connection. The
that's
like
right.
you just said, the greatest connection you have is with yourself.
Mm.
And
It's the key to any other connection that we have, actually. First,
it
we
is.
must be
Yeah.
centered in ourselves
Yeah,
to really
absolutely.
connect.
Absolutely. And you do that through self-love as your
Mm.
foundation.
Perfect month for it. February, the
Yeah.
month of love,
Yes, it
Valentine's Day.
is.
That's like a week away.
Oh, hard to believe.
I know.
Well,
I
this
know.
has been a oh,
And it's starting to feel like springtime here in Arizona. I don't know if it is in Washington right now, but in Arizona it is. The sun is coming out and the birds are happy, and I don't see any rabbits running around or anything like that in my backyard because I'm in the city, but there's plenty of cats running around. So,
well, we just have rain and wind, and there's a teeny tiny little suggestion of sun out there.
well,
Uh,
yes, this is about the time of year where it's hinting that spring is around the corner. So,
yeah.
another month or so away. Yeah, it's
Yes.
been a really good conversation, really starting with the detox, the mental detox, and then all the release techniques that
Hmm.
and there's more. There's more. We could talk about this probably for many more episodes on Lightweavings, but I think we got a good start.
I believe so too. Yeah, this has been really fun. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Wendy.
Do you have any closing thoughts that you'd like to share?
I think, something that we talked about today was just to give ourselves grace when we do go through these mental detoxing times, and understand that that is old programming
Hmm.
that has been there to help us survive in the past. So just to use that self-love that you've talked about for February, and the connection that I'm talking about, to connect to that part of yourself, forgive it, give it a hug, bring it with, and say, let's go over here, let's try this NLP instead, or whatever the technique will be. Yeah. So just, I think it's the word is grace, just to give yourself grace. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes. Grace, ease, love, high fives. You've talked about that
Mm-hmm. High
before.
five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
And anything more that you want to talk about with the self-love theme that you have happening?
Oh, I think just for all encompassing of today's conversation is to embrace the detox, embrace what comes up, be okay with what comes up, and know that it's temporary. If it hurts right now, it's temporary and you will move through it. We all move through the detoxing, like you talked about the body detoxing, how it feels so much better afterwards. It's the same thing with our mental detox. Just we don't want to resist it because, as the saying goes, what we resist persists, and it's coming up for a reason because it's time to let it go.
Interesting. It's coming up for a
Yeah.
reason because it
Yeah.
wants to go.
That's right. Yeah. It just
Wants
that
to go.
acknowledgement. And it's like, okay, I hear you. I feel you. Thank you. That
Mhm.
gratitude. I can let you go now. No longer needed. Thank you.
Yeah. We're not losing it anymore. Like you said, we're not losing it. We're letting it go. And that's kind of a plan where it's
Yeah.
like when you're angry, you lose it. You know what I mean?
And you get it back.
That's
Yeah,
right. And it
you
comes back again.
yeah.
So no more losing it. Let it go.
Right, right, right. Well said.
Yeah. The Frozen song comes to mind. So.
Mm. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. This is Lightweavings podcast. This is where we talk about what's dimming your light, and sometimes it's the mental detox. And if you're ready to do something about it, we're here to talk about it and for you to listen. And if you'd like to make any comments below, any words of wisdom that you have for us, they're welcome. So thank you so much, Wendy, for your all your knowledge that you're sharing with all of us. Appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Dawn, and thank you for all of your love and your knowledge, your wisdom. And yes, I just want to invite listeners, if they like our content, feel free to subscribe, pass it along, and know that we are both here as coaches and healers, and we help people on the personal level, the one-on-one level. If anybody is feeling called to reach out and say, hey, yeah, I want to take this deeper, that's always an option. So I want to thank you again, Dawn. Thank you for everybody that's listening. Always remember that you are loved and that you matter.
All right. Bye,
Great.
everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.